Hello, welcome to Being Reintegrated. This is Tim Wright. So we are in Kim Publishing at the almost end of the Watkins manuscript process of reconstruction. Now, of course, there were a few articles that couldn't be obtained for Watkins Volume 1, but that's only about 20 pages in French, so that would equate to about 5 or 6 pages in English. So you're not missing much from the brand new Watkins manuscript. Um, and Coffee. And the thing is that I wanted to talk about this book primarily not because it's just another book, but this, if you didn't know, was the destroyed version of the Watkins manuscript as best put together by scholars. Like I said, save for a few pages, we're sitting with this manuscript now. And what happened is I started to notice, well, I was told by a German initiatic source that the Pensees, the thoughts of Saint Martin, were actually his reflections on the doctrines in the Pentateuch. And so that made me go crazy because I was told that in the beginning, the Bereshit was actually spoken of by Saint Martin as thought, as Pensees. So I know that seems like a general clue, but since every one of Saint Martin's thoughts are in the Watkins manuscript darn near, and have never been made available, I just thought, okay, let's just take this initiatic pitch from the pitcher and see, what happens, what gets hit. And to my amazement, I found that even in the beginning of his book, well, not book, but his notebooks, the Watkins manuscript were notebooks that Robert Amadou dispersed throughout all of his publications. What happened was he started to talk about these concepts in Genesis. So even though he's using Burlamaqui as his launching pad, his notes on the principles of natural law by him is basically he's going into some really initiatic stuff. Adam is a source of evil and human fallenness. The need for a redeemer beyond human capacity. So there's many areas that this overlaps. What Amadou said in one of his lectures, he gave an initiatic lecture on what esotericism is. And there's some markers that he gave to that group of students in the 1980s. But what we're looking at is basically Saint Martin's commentary on what I would speculate as the hidden doctrine that he received from his initiatic sources of the Bereshit. And this is really profound because for years I've been looking for a initiatic source for the work of creation is what it's called in Kabbalistic circles. And it was so hard to find anything. Of course we have commentaries on Genesis by, well-knowns, but we don't have much in the line of commentary on Genesis by an initiatic authority. Well, this is what the German initiator told me, is that basically the Watkins manuscript is Saint Martin's reflections on his reception of Genesis, that his reflections on the philosophy of Genesis are in his Watkins manuscript. Now, I don't know if this was intended, or if it's just because he was constantly absorbed in that material that this is where his mind went. But I'm very grateful to have it. You know, I fantasized about reading the Watkins manuscript for a very long time, and we found that parts one was actually really hard to put together because it required massive amounts of dispersed publications of Amadou, which, if you've ever tried to get anything from Robert Amadou, is like nearly impossible. So the fact that we were able to put that together, me and the team of translators and researchers at Kim Publishing, were able to put together the Watkins manuscript is just beyond belief. The fact is the hardest one has already been done. Volume 1 was the hardest one to do. And now Volume 2 and 3 are in production. They're going to be released sometime in the year 2025. I'm not sure exactly the best time to release Volume 2, and Volume 3 is just a very rare book called Mon Livre Vert. If you have it, that's great. I was fortunate enough, by luck or whatever the Cohen luck that I have, to be able to put together this stuff. So I was able to get that book, and we're doing the translation of parts 2 and 3. Now, this is unheard of because my German initiatic source told me that essentially all these volumes are Saint-Martin's commentary on the books of Genesis, the doctrine of Bereshit. So that is mind-blowing that is even possible. But even more important is that we have the ability to drill down into his words and see what he's exactly talking about. So, one of these is, of course, there's lists, but that you'll have to know the doctrine of Genesis to even be able to extract from the Watkins manuscript what he's talking about. I mean, it's very, very subtle. He did not want anybody to know that he was giving pretty much a received commentary. I think, like I said, speculation, but he had a received commentary from those who were doctors in the suppressed or underground stream of church doctrine during that time, during the early 1700s or mid 1700s, during the revolutionary times of France. He was writing, so that in and of itself was very, very frowned upon. I mean, he could have had his head chopped off from that. But the fact that he was also going against, not against, but in addition to some of the known doctrine at that time, it shows how deep this stuff actually went. Which, of course, through analysis of the doctrines and rituals of the Elu Cohen, you'll be able to deduce why they wanted everyone to be such fierce Catholics. But that's for people in the Order des Cohens Ressuscités. We don't really talk about that stuff outwardly. But the point is that Saint-Martin was very highly conversant with the doctrines in Genesis, and pretty much from the Hebrew, because like I said in another video, I'm not going to point at a clip that comes up, but another video that introduces the Watkins manuscript, that he was a philologist. He wasn't just a brilliant, intellectual who happened to have a position that was non-rational. It was irrational in the sense that he did not adhere to scientific rationalism. He felt that mode of occultism and esoteric presentation that best would be done would be in the line of like Jakob Boehme, the German idealism, the Illuminists, his friend Kirchberger, who he had conversation with forever and a day, which, I thought that him and Kirchberger was like a Martinist situation where, and this is my misreading of the book, but come to find out that it's not a conversation between a, kind of pie-eyed student who wants to be visualized in the intellectual heritage of their master, but it's a conversation of the masters of initiatic wisdom talking with each other. So you're kind of getting to look in, though they don't tell you, you're getting to look in on the doctrines of Illuminism with Samartan and Kirchberger. Now, there's some stuff there that is absolutely mind-blowing that I will be releasing in another book in the future. Once I get done with this Watkins project, I'll be going back into the English translations, or the best English translations as to date that we can get, or we have had, on Bader's thoughts on Boehme. Bader was a highly intelligent scholar, I would say. I mean, he read Schelling, he read Schiller, he read Boehme. He was very, very tied into Saint-Martin. Bader is very, very important to German Illuminism. And I can't wait to use the energy and motivation we have at Kim Publishing to push into the Bader territory, which I've been given. I've said it before, but I don't know who's listening in continuity and all this stuff. I've been given by an editor at Brill the critical edition of the German Bader work. So, I mean, I do have critical notes on what Bader was talking about, contextualization. That's how I was able to find this German source, which told me about the Watkins manuscript essentially being Samartan's commentary on the doctrines of Genesis. And it matches up perfectly. I mean, if you take that framework into consideration, then you will be able to see the nuance of what Samartan is actually saying. He's not talking about this Burlamaqui character and his doctrines. Samartan was exposed to way more than anybody in the French intellectual milieu of his contemporaries. So it's so important to understand this because Saint-Martin was the actual, I think, core of French Illuminism. Now, I could be wrong. It could be Martinez, who they say was a Portugal, expat or whatever from Portugal. Portuguese expat from Portugal. You want to get all these things right, and I don't use like notes so I can say everything absolutely 100% accurately. But if you want to go toe to toe, we can have a conversation. I'm pretty sure, not to fight, but I'm pretty sure that this stuff has not been said before. But, maybe in the higher grades of the stuff I haven't been able to be able to review, they talk about it. I smile because, I don't say things here to you without having researched them thoroughly. So the excitement comes from the fact that it's so new. As a matter of fact, what's also new is, I'm pretty much an archivist of the Illuminist tradition. So I've been publishing things left and right on Similas, on the Frere d'Orient, but what recently I found through researching, because I don't just believe anybody that tells me this stuff is thus and so. Even if somebody says, hey, Saint Martin is all based on the doctrines of Genesis, I research that. I don't just take it at face value and say, okay, well, so and so said such and that's how it must be. I don't believe that. And that's what led me into this realm of critical thinking when it comes to the Cohen. And we were able to reconstruct it. Go ahead and email resurrectedcohens@gmail.com, and we can get you into the membership consideration process. Now, I removed myself from any kind of administrative authority, so I'm not making decisions. I'm only providing enthusiasm and energy and direction to the people that are already part of that organization. And so it's not really me doing anything. I'm just the face that has all the caffeine and energy to share with you things like this. I mean, who would really care that the Watkins manuscript is a nuanced commentary of Genesis? Well, if you're so inclined, we can continue with that conversation at being reintegrated. But if not, I mean, you're not going to find that. You're just going to see it as a bunch of words that don't have any context. And yeah, it's fun to read these nice philosophical treatises, but what does it really mean? And that is what I got when I first read Errors in Truth. That team had done, well, not team, but individual, had done such a great job that it was taken up in French academic context, and for an English-speaking person to be able to make a French translation that well, I was shocked when I heard that news. So what happened is when I started exploring Bader, I found that Bader did a commentary on Errors in Truth. And in that book, Bader's Commentary to Errors in Truth, which you can find at Kim Publishing, there's actually a table of pagination. So you'll be able to use that commentary to go back to the original French of Errors in Truth and link it up to the English. In the back of the book, there is that table. Now, that is better than me trying to re-release the Errors in Truth and have some kind of crazy commentary about it, that it's, thus and thus and so and so. And so I figured a table of pagination would be absolutely fine to augment that wonderful translation. Now, in Bader's commentary to Errors in Truth, he goes through some nuance that is very, very good. And that's why I say that German idealism is so strong. And, even Saint Martin in Watkins Volume 1 says that basically the Germans had a very strong sense of intellectual authority, because you're not allowed to start formulating thoughts before you've heard everything that's being presented. And that was just, mind-blowing to me that was actually said, that he actually wrote that. But the fact that he felt that German idealism was a lot stronger than the French philosophies, that were available to him, just goes to show that it's never just one thing. There's always something below the surface. Like I heard that Saint Martin wrote Errors in Truth completely under Le Chose's influence. Well, then I did a research on Le Chose through all of the channels that I had, been exposed to, and found out that it was not what everybody said it was. And that's why you have to fact check everybody. So anyway, that was just my fun little introduction to the Watkins manuscript again. Hope you go and grab it. It is in hardcover. It's on Amazon. And then just go to Kim Publishing, click on the image of any book you want, and you'll be able to go right to the link. So Hope that's a good context for this brand new venture into the philosophy of Saint Martin. And thanks for watching.